may have an intermittent operation problem that could be pretty interesting. The lady said she noticed the outdoor unit was not running, so she looked at it, walked inside, checked her breakers, turned off all the breakers, walked back outside, looked at it, smacked it with her hand, and went back inside, turned the breakers on, and after a little while she noticed the outdoor unit was actually running again and the house was cooling off. That kind of strikes me as it could have been something like a stuck contactor on the outside, or possibly by turning the power off something was overheating and it allowed it to cool off enough to start again, so possibly a bad motor, something of that nature. On the other hand, could be a capacitor where it's got just enough to sometimes get them started, but not enough to always get them started, and as it runs it overheats. So could be any number of things like that. On the other hand, this particular neighborhood, I feel like they're gas furnaces with straight ACs over there, but if it's say like a Lennox or a few other variants of units, they do run their pressure switches through the circuit board and they will lock out sometimes. Lennox especially is very prone to that. Lennox, Duquesne, Airflow, all of their ones that use their typical defrost board. In the spring and in the fall, having a dirty filter, or even the weather changes like we've been getting, where we go from a 30-degree day to an 80-degree day, changing from heating to cooling rapidly, can set off those pressure switches, and that particular board will lock out the unit anytime that happens. So if she turned the power off to the indoor section, the air handler, that would have killed the low voltage, which would have reset that fault. So could be something as simple as that. But we'll stop by, take a look, and see what we can find for her. That did exactly what she was talking about right there. So let's see what that was all about. That's what we have after touching it a little bit. When you chatter like that, it's messing with our wires here. I believe one of our wire nuts must be loose. Lord, something running to ours, not doing it now, but we heard that chattering after I started messing with these wires. Yeah, it's just disconnected there, I think. Yeah, not a good connection there. I had that little piece of fiber wrapped in it as well. Nothing now. So we do have power to the unit, but it's got an old ECW board. And we did have a wire nut that wasn't quite right on the outside, but lost power to the outdoor unit altogether after messing with it. So I think it was just coincidence. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that, but our board here is not happy. Just touching some of that. Our outdoor unit kicked on and off right there. So basically, this thing's just been up here getting hot over the years, and all of these little connectors are starting to desolder. And you wouldn't think it would get hot enough in these attics, but I don't know what kind of process they use. You can actually see that one moving a little bit, but that's what the issue is. We have a bad zone board. I don't have anything to replace this with right now, so we'll have to order probably a new zone board for her, and I'll run back out here. Being Saturday afternoon, I've got no ability to get one today. In the meantime, so she has something, we're essentially just going to take this all apart and make it a one zone house. Straight wired through, so we should be good. 24 volts is now disconnected from this guy. We're running it simply as a standard one zone system essentially. I did wire my motors in so that they should actuate into the open position basically continuously until we can get them a new board. So I heard it start up over here. But because we killed power, the thermostat downstairs will be reset. So we'll run down there, turn it back on, check everything out. Well, maybe I lied. Must have batteries in the thermostat down there. So we did kick on. We'll run outside, double check the outdoor unit, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. So zone systems are made to help maintain the temperature across the structure. In this case, we have our downstairs and our upstairs thermostats. When our downstairs calls for cooling and our upstairs does not, it corresponds to our motor terminal, which opens that one, closes this one, and essentially just runs the air conditioner for that one zone. So in this particular application, they're using it to control each floor independently. So today we have a little Honeywell, so we'll go ahead and get this replaced and get it going for them again. The fun part is I have to remember which one of those goes where. These are just all of our equipment connections. Now that we've stripped all the wiring for our equipment side, we take that bare copper and we slide it into the little latches. It's essentially just a little push pin with a spring that makes the connection. So you depress it and slide your wire under it and let go, and now we're connected. Now we'll just do the same thing with our thermostat connections on the right side of the board for our upper and lower floors. Again, just depressing the little tabs to allow us to slip our wires under the connectors. Zone systems can be intimidating at first, but in reality, they're fairly simple. Just imagine your thermostat where it would normally hook to the equipment is simply hooking to the thermostat 1, 2, or 3, what have you, as far as zone goes on your board. And then your opposite side of the board, that connects to where your thermostat would typically connect to the equipment. So you can kind of think of it as just a bridge or an interrupt in between that connection, just another device there. So they're really not that intimidating after you get used to wiring a standard system and then look at it from that perspective. And once again, we'll attach our motors, because each zone thermostat controls its own individual damper motor. So we just have to be sure to connect the correct damper motor to the correct side. Is power closed for you? That way we don't have any confusion with the system actuating the wrong damper at the wrong time. But that's really more of the most confusing part about it, especially if you disconnect things ahead of time like we've done. Yellow is common. Lastly, we have our duct air temperature sensor, which does just that. It's literally picking up the temperature inside the system. We are closing and opening parts of the ducting system, so we can run into issues where we over or under temp and can freeze or overheat things, so you don't want that. Also, these systems require their own 24-volt power supply because the primary transformer in them is really only rated voltage amperage wise to handle the various relays in the equipment as well as the existing thermostat. So now we're adding a zone board and its own motors, so it needs its own power supply for that. One thing to watch out for, these terminals are very close together, as you can see, so it's very easy to hit the wrong one, which I do see a lot of times coming back to zone systems that are installed and things don't quite work correctly. Is just because you accidentally moved one up or one down, hit the wrong color into the wrong thing. But now we're corresponding again to our thermostat 2, damper 2, thermostat 1, damper 1. Over here we have our duct temperature sensor, power for the board, and then our equipment hookup. If we wanted, we do have an option for a third zone, but in this particular case we don't need it. So we'll power this guy up and make sure everything works correctly. So we're in a purge mode right now. So we'll let this guy do his thing. Or if we were so inclined, we could pop this off and do a purge override on the bottom. So our unit just turned on. And we see that zone 2 is calling for cooling and fan. Zone 3 and zone 1. 3 is not connected. Zone 1 is, but it's not currently calling for anything. So what we'll do is go downstairs, double check and make sure that our vents are actually blowing in zone 1 and that they're not blowing in zone 2, just to make sure I didn't switch these by accident. But we're probably done. So it's a good example of a problem that can go on with a zone board, and that particular one, just to get them going until I can get back and put a zone board on. We essentially just wired the system to the downstairs thermostat and just let it operate as normal. So the only thing this guy is really doing is intercepting your call for cooling or heating from your thermostat, saying, they want cooling on zone 1 but not on 2 and 3. Close 2 and 3, open 1, operate equipment. So it's just a way to try to maintain a temperature across an entire structure. For example, the way that I had wired that unit in the meantime to get them going over the weekend, now they only had operational control from the downstairs, which means the upstairs would always be a bit warmer, summer or winter, because hot air rises. Vice versa, if we had done it the other way, thermostat upstairs would always be colder downstairs because cold air drops. It has no idea what the temperature is down there. So that's, zone systems are just a way to try to even out a temperature across a structure that, you have no direct input on what a temperature may be. So pretty interesting little guys. There are some limitations. Obviously, you can't run one unit at 60 degrees, or one zone rather at 60 degrees and one zone at 85 degrees. It's just not going to work that way. You'll end up freezing your system up, causing all kind of issues. The other side of that is you can't have one operating in heat and one operating in cool. Most of these guys, for example, the board we put up there, the Honeywell, that one I believe will run for 15 minutes in cooling mode, shut down, go through a short cycle, let it all wind down, turn on the furnace, run that for about 15 minutes, turn it off, close and open the zones accordingly to do it. So if you ever run into one doing strange things like that, just double check your thermostats, make sure they're both in the same operational mode. Typically, I don't like to go more than 2 or 3 degrees above or below temperature of the other set point zones in any particular one of them. And always make sure your thermostats are correct. I've ran into several of them where you would have a heat pump thermostat on one and a conventional or furnace thermostat on the other, which these can actually do. There's set points on here where you can say, hey, zone 2 conventional thermostat, hey, zone 3 heat pump thermostat, operate as a heat pump. And you can't do it, but if you don't set the board up for it, or the thermostats are set up incorrectly, you can have some issues. But not too bad, just as long as you pay attention to your wire location, colors, make sure what they're hooked to. Me, I like to do it the lazy man way and keep everything connected to the old board and hook it up one at a time, just so I don't have to think about it. On the other hand, it is easy enough just to trace the wires back. Say, hey, this goes to my equipment side. Hey, this goes to zone 1. Hey, this goes to zone 2. That can be a little aggravating though when you have 40 bundles of wire that all look the same coming into the same area. Very easy to suddenly not remember which one is zone 1 and zone 2, and now you've got a damper actuating for upstairs that should be actuating for downstairs, and vice versa. And get a call back a week later, hey, this doesn't seem to be working right, kind of thing. So do watch out for that. But pretty easy little changeover of a board, not a bad service call, fairly simple to diagnose if you know what you're looking at. But we'll move on to the next one, and I can hopefully finally get this mini split out of my truck when I get back over to the office.